I just saved myself hundreds of dollars and a lot of frustration. Have you priced replacement barrels lately? These are lower tone barrels. These are the 12 pounders and these are the 6 pounders. These cost over $100 each, and these are close to $100 each. So I noticed a couple years ago, and I've just put this off all this time, that the bottoms are getting really thin on them. So if you see in the middle here, if I poke my finger, you can see it's almost poking right through. Around the edges here, it's still nice and thick. They always wear in the middle first. So I finally got around to patching these. This one's been running on the tumbler for somewhere between a month and 2 months. I guess 5 or 6 weeks, somewhere in there. And there's no sign of any wear or anything. It seems to be holding up really well. I can poke my fingers in the bottom and you don't see it coming through. So this is holding up well. I think this is going to be a great fix, and I'm really glad I finally did it. These just got repaired. I haven't run them yet. They've been drying, so they've been drying for over a week now, just making sure that they're ready to go so I don't mess anything up. But I think this is going to be a really good fix, so I'm going to show you how to do it. So give me just a second, and I'll come back and show you how to do that. Well, I think I have all the supplies gathered up that I'll need for this project, but before I start, I want to thank Bob from the Rock Tumbling Hobby forums for the idea. If you'd like to see his original explanation and the discussion that followed, I'll put a link to that in the description of this video. And also a huge thanks to Sarah for making this awesome shirt for me. I think this is really funny, and if you're old enough, you'd probably think it's funny too, and if you're not old enough, just ask somebody who is and they'll explain it to you. The first barrel that I did probably took me, I don't know, half an hour, maybe a little bit more. But the second and third ones took maybe 10 minutes each to do. So once you do one of these, it goes really quickly. The first thing I did is I got on a graphics program. I took some measurements first, I guess, and then I went up on my computer and I got a graphics program. I can't remember which one. You can do this on just about any graphics program, but I drew I think this is a decagon. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yep, 10. It's a decagon, 10 sides. So I drew a decagon, and I just drew it with the same diameter as this is. And I did that so that before I cut this rubber to put in the bottom, I could make sure that it was going to fit. So just place that down in there. Fits really nicely, and then that's going to be my template for cutting the rubber. So the rubber is neoprene rubber. It's 1/8 inch thick. Comes in different thicknesses, but 1/8 seemed like about the right thickness to me, so that's what I bought. I'll have a link to this in I have an Amazon storefront in the description of the video, and that's just a place where I can recommend products that I like. And I've got this listed in there, so if you want to use the same rubber that I'm using, you can use the same thing, and hopefully I picked a good one. So you can see I've already cut some stuff out of this. I'm going to cut a new one right here. A little dusty. I'm using a silver Sharpie for this, and I'm just going to trace around here the best I can. Alright, my Sharpie's kind of dying, of course. Alright, so then I need to cut it out, and I'm just going to use a straight edge and a knife. And this stuff cuts pretty easily. I've got a board down underneath here so I don't cut up my countertop here, or my tabletop. And it usually takes 2 cuts on each one to go all the way through. Alright, so there's my replacement bottom, and I'm just going to place it in there and make sure it fits. And it looks like it fits in there nicely. So the next thing is to glue it in. And I'm using E6000 glue. This stuff isn't very expensive, and I'm going to show you the quick way to open it. Just take your tin snips, cut across the bottom there, and then you squeeze the entire tube out into the barrel. All right, I should mention that I did scrub the bottom of this barrel really well. I used one of those Scotch-Brite pads and really kind of roughed it up so this will stick well. The glue is now in there, but it's all piled up in the middle, so I just cut a little scrap stick here, or paint stirrer if you have one. I had paint stirrers, but they're all full of paint, so we're just going to smear this around the bottom. And I want to get it right up to the edges, but not smeared up the sides, if I can help it. I don't think that would hurt anything, but trying to be a little bit neat about it. All right, so I have it smeared all over the bottom nicely, and now I'm going to put in my patch. I like to kind of put in one edge first to make sure it gets the sides line up nicely. And then once it's in, I'm going to press in the middle first and try to work any air bubbles out. So press here and just sort of work towards the edges. And I am seeing a little bit of glue squirting up out of the edges, and that's fine. All right, so it's all stuck in there. And the next part of this is really, really important. I made a mistake on the first one of not weighting this down. It looked like it was all stuck down nicely, and I left it, and I came back the next morning, and the edges were all curled up, and I had to cut it away and try to work it back down. But that's the first barrel, the one that I've been running for over a month, and it's doing just fine, even though I really messed it up. So don't make the same mistake I did. All right, next. We need some wax paper so that when I weight this down, I'm going to weight it down with this. I cut this out, and this is where the time was in the first one. You don't probably have to make one of these. You could probably just use a larger can or something and put in there. But I thought since I'm doing 4, I'll make this and squeeze it right down the corners and everything. The wax paper is so that this doesn't get glued into the bottom of the barrel here. So I'm going to just shove this down in here. I probably could tape it onto here or something, but it's not really necessary. Make sure it's all up around the edges. And I'm getting it centered. And then take something like a paint can and put it on there. And then I need something heavy to weigh it down. So how about a rock? And then I'm just going to leave it there overnight. So the one more thing I have to do that I'm not going to show you, I don't have another tube of it, but that E6000, in the morning or after even a couple of days when this is nice and dried, I'm going to make a bead right around the bottom edge there. My only concern with this whole project is that if you have a little gap around the outside edge and grit gets in there, if you're doing more than one stage in the same barrel, you don't want like your coarse grit to still be in there in the little cracks and fall out during the polish stage or something. So that's the one risk of this. Other than that, I don't think there's any downside to this. This stuff is a lot cheaper than buying a brand new barrel. The glue isn't very expensive, and this should make this barrel last for many more years. So I think the whole project is really worth your time and effort. It really doesn't take much effort or much time. A little bit of money, but you're saving a lot of money in the long run. So give this a try. And if you'd like to see any more videos, I've got a playlist of tumbling tips here that I'm going to post, and you can look at that and go learn more about tumbling.